Hi, welcome. My name is David. I'm one of the teachers here at Hamilton Education. I want to thank you for watching this video and taking the first step to finding success with the SAT math. So let's get started. For question 1, a tree farmer measured the heights of 33 black cherry trees on 1 acre for his grove in order to calculate the average height of all the trees on his 10 acres of black cherry trees. The bar graph above shows his count. How many of the trees that he counted were a minimum height of 75? So one thing you look at this is I see that there's a minimum height of 75 and we have to go all the way over to the right. Going up to here, minimum would be at least 10 that are above 75, 75 to 80. And then we have 5 between 80 and 85 and 2 between 85 and 90. So when you take 10 plus 5 plus 2, you get a grand total of 17. And that's why D was the answer. Question 2. What percent of 75 is 450? So these are very common percent problems on the SAT test. I took follow something called POOF, which is percent of original is equal to final. And you're going to always follow that process. So what percent? So P out of 100. Of means multiply. So times 75 is equal to or is 450. So when you do 450 divided by 75 in your calculator, you get P over 100 is equal to 6. And therefore we can see that P is 600%. And that's why the answer was D. Question number 3. This one looks pretty tricky, but the question is what non-zero value of n is the above equation true? So we're going to cross multiply both sides and we're going to get n cubed is equal to 14 times 196. Now I know that 196 is 14 squared, so this is really n cubed is equal to 14 times 14 squared, which means that n cubed is equal to 14 cubed and n is equal to 14. You of course could do it a different way and take the cube root of both sides to get your answer. But the answer is indeed C. Question number 4. A chef spent $49.90 purchasing 20 dragon fruit. Very delicious fruit if you have not yet tried it. For one of the courses of a banquet he was producing. Each of his 40 people attending receives half a dragon fruit portion, and each dragon fruit averages half a pound. So again, a common tricky wording with the SAT, half of half. What was the price per pound for the dragon fruit the day the chef made his purchase? Okay, so we want price per pound, so we want to have the money per pound. So let's go through the process. We know we spent a total of $49.90, but we don't know how many pounds that was. So let's see if there's a way we can figure that out. All right, well, we know that there's 20 dragon fruit and each dragon fruit weighed an average of half a pound. So 20 times half would be 10 pounds. From here, we can say, oh, 49.90 cents divided by 10 is going to have a cost per pound of $4.99, which is a great price for dragon fruits. And that's why the answer is B. Yes, sir is a gamer. And he pays for his Bon Bon Blast game purchase from a prepaid gift card he had received. He discovered that he could accurately calculate the amount A left on his card every week by using the linear function A is equal to 100 minus 6.94p, where p is the number of purchases he made since he received the card. What is the best interpretation of 6.94 in this equation? Well, this is a linear model, and 6.94 is multiplying the variable. So that makes me think that 6.94 is the rate of change, and the 100 is the starting amount. So maybe it's a $100 gift card that he spends $6.94 for every purchase. So your star makes an average of 6.94 purchases. That's incorrect. That would be assuming a P is 6.94. He received a $100 gift card before he made any purchases. That would be the y-intercept. He spends an average of $6.94 for every purchase he makes. That is the perfect answer, but we can check D. If star spends an average of 6.94 every week on the purchase he makes, that would be per week of time, which is not mentioned in the question. So the answer was C. Hanford bought new tires for his 3 children fat tire bicycles. These are bicycles with very, very wide tires. He found that if he bought them directly from the factory and paid for his transaction using SpendFriend, not PayPal, SpendFriend, he would receive 33% discount from what he would pay buying the same tires at his local bike shop for cash. So this is another percent problem, but we're using a discount. So whenever we have a discount, we're going to use something called predict, or percent decrease. And we're going to use 1 minus the percent decrease over 100 as our P for the POO formula. So let's go through this process. It's 1 minus 33 over 100 times the original cost. So the original cost would be buying it directly from the local bike shop. So local bike shop. And then that will equal the factory price. All right, keep reading. If his bill from the factory showed he paid $73.70 per tire, so not for all 3 children, but per tire. So we're probably going to have to multiply this by 6 because there are 2 tires per bicycle and 3 children, so it's going to be a total of 6 tires. All right, and then we can plug in the 7370. So 0.67 times the cost is equal to 7370. And that means the cost from the bike shop would have to be $110. So how much is he saving? Well, he's saving $110 minus $73.70. And then we need to times that by 6 to get the total savings buying all 6 tires, which was a grand total of $270.80. So a great deal. And that's why the answer was C. Triangles ABC and LM are similar. Perfect. Because they're similar triangles, we know the angles are going to be congruent and corresponding, and the sides will be proportional. Where B corresponds with M. Angle C is a right. Okay, so I'm going to draw a right triangle here, and I'm going to do A, B, C, and that is a right angle. Now LM is similar, so I'm going to draw LM, and it also is a right triangle. And because B corresponds with M, the top angle must be M. And because angle L has a measure of pi over 6, it cannot be the right angle. So that means that N would be the right angle. All right, well, because we have a 90-degree angle, a 30-degree angle, the remaining angle must be 60. So again, write that out. Pi over 6 radians is the same thing as 30 degrees. Pi over 2, or a right angle, is the same thing as 90 degrees. And since we know the angles in triangle add up to 180 degrees, or 1 pi, we can find the missing angle by subtracting it. So if you use degree mode, it'd be 180 minus 90 minus 30, which is equal to 60 degrees, or pi over 3. And if you did straight from radian mode, it'd be pi minus pi over 2 minus pi over 6, which gives you directly pi over 3. All right, and that's it. Answer is B. Question number 8. The table above shows 3 domain and respective range values for a function f of x. If f has a constant rate of change, well, if it has a constant rate of change, it must be a linear model. Which defining equation best below best defines fx. So you could have plugged these points in for a or d, and they will work. The points a, d those functions do contain these 3 points, but they're not linear models. This is a quadratic and this is cubic, so we can cross them out. So the next thing you have to do is consider if it's at 13x minus 13 or 13x plus 13. So in order to find the slope, I like to do how much change in the x versus the change in the y. So I can see it went up 13 over 1, which they both have. And then I can do point slope form. Y is equal to 13 times x minus 1 plus 26. And then I will multiply that out. I get 13x minus 13 plus 26, or y equals 13x minus plus 13, which means that the answer has to be C. Alternatively, instead of adding 13 to go to when x is 2, you could subtract 13 from both of them. Subtract 1, so you get 0, negative 13. So a lot of ways to get the answer C here, 13x plus 13. And lastly, you could also go onto Desmos, and you could have typed in these three values using the table feature. So you do table, and then type in x1, y1, and then you do 1, 2, 5, 26, 39, 78. And then your next cell, you do y1 tilde m x1 plus b, and then it will tell you that the slope is 13, and it will tell you that the b value is equal to positive 13. So a lot of different ways of doing this problem. So I hope you found that interesting. Question 9. In a circle not shown with center O and radius r, the shortest distance between 2 points A and B on the circle is r root 2. The area of triangle AOB is given as 8 square units. What is the best integer approximation of the area of a circle? So I'm drawing a circle because we're talking about a circle problem, and I don't know where these points are. So I'm just going to draw a point here, A, a point here for B. And this is R because it's the radius. This is also R because it's the radius. And then the shortest distance directly between A and B. So if it's along the curve, that would be arc length. But because it's directly, it's going to be going straight across. So you have a straight line. And then from here, I might look at that and go, that looks oddly familiar. That looks like a special right triangle. So I'm going to pull up a formula that you should be pretty familiar with. There you go. So it's a little blurry copying it from the formula sheet, but that should look very familiar. So instead of SS root 2, it's RR root 2. But this is a isosceles right triangle, which makes this problem a lot easier to do. So I'm going to make this a right angle here. So that the area of the triangle AOB, well, now we know it's a right triangle. So area is 1/2 base times height. So in this case, it would be 1/2 r squared is equal to 8. Well, then we can solve for the radius. So r squared is equal to 16. R is equal to 4. But the question was also, what is the integer approximation of the area of the circle? Area of the circle is pi r squared. So we know r squared is 16. So it's going to be 16 pi, which is about 50.3. Since we want the best integer approximation, we're going to actually round down to 50. And that's why the answer was 50. So kind of tricky because we didn't have a circle drawn. We didn't necessarily know right away that it's an isosceles triangle, but these triangles are very important on the test. And so typically we ever see root 2, you might want to be thinking of isosceles right triangles. If you see root 3, it might be the 30, 60, 90 triangle. All right, that's all I have for this question. See you at the next one. Question number 10. Ken Manager is the manager of an ice cream shop. He plotted average daily sales S as a function of the outside temperature T in degrees Celsius. Which of the following is best models of data recorded by the manager? So this looks like a scatter plot, and we're probably going to do a linear regression model. So I'm going to eyeball it. Looks like it goes through the points right about there. And I like to draw a slope triangle to help myself kind of figure out the slope better. So I'm looking and see if the slope is 40 or 1 over 40. I'm pretty sure it's going to be more than 1. So, but we can verify. This difference is about 520 maybe. And then this from 10 to 26 is 16. So that looks like it's about 24, 30 or so, maybe more than 30. Yeah, it's like 35. So I'm going to go with it's not C or D. And looking here, it hits the y-axis at looks like maybe 120, but that we have to be careful with because this is not actually the true y-axis. It is an axis, but not the y-axis where x is 0. So a good reminder is to use point slope form. So I'm going to do y is equal to 40, and then temperature minus 10 will be about 180. So then here, if we want to find the y-intercept, we could plug in 0 for t, and we get y is equal to negative 400 plus 180, which is going to be about 220 or so. Now, again, everything is approximation, but looking at the different choices, the negative 280 is what we're going to want to pick for this problem. So definitely, it's a tricky question, and the answer is A, but just be careful when you're trying yourself drawn to a graph. Make sure you are looking at the graph carefully, reading both the y-axis and x-axis. The relationship 5c plus 3a is less than or equal to 50. Describes the number of adults, A, and the number of children, C, that are allowed onto one set of cars on a roller coaster ride on any given day of the ride is in operation. If during one ride on a certain day, the set of cars carried 7 children and all seats were filled, how many adults were also seated in the set of cars on that one ride? This question seems very challenging, but when we plug in our values, so we have C is equal to 7, we're trying to find A. You can do 5 times 7 plus 3 times A is less than or equal to 50. We then get 3A is less than or equal to 15, and A is less than or equal to 5. But because all seats were full, we have to pick the maximum value here. And that's why the answer was 5 for this question. All right, that's it. Question number 12. If m over 7 equals 6n, what is the least positive difference between the positive integers n and m? So we're going to be subtracting 2 numbers, and with n and m must be positive. So I'm going to make it a little bit easier to read. M is equal to 42n. And then I'm looking for the difference between those 2 numbers. So I might subtract m and n, and I'd get 42n minus n, which is 41n. And because we're looking for the smallest difference, and n must be a positive integer, so we cannot have n be 0 or negative. So the smallest positive integer n could be is 1, which means that 41 times 1 is equal to 41. And that's why the answer is C. Question 13. What is the area and square units of a regular quadrilateral not shown with diagonals with a length of a unit? So a regular quadrilateral is also known as a square, and the diagonal has a length of 1 unit. Well, this is going to be your favorite triangle, 45, 45, 90. And we know that this is S and S, and we can do Pythagorean theorem to find what S is. So S squared plus S squared is equal to 1 squared. 2S squared is equal to 1. S squared is equal to half, which actually, because we're looking for the area, we can stop here. You don't have to go all the way to find the length of S and then multiply it by itself. So we can pick the answer A. So it's always good to remember the question when you're solving these types of problems. Question 14. There are 3 times as many units of length as there are units of width in a rectangle. So that type of wording tricks a lot of students up. So many people want to write 3L is equal to 1W. Unfortunately, that is incorrect, and that would actually make the width larger than the length. Whenever you see the words as many as, you want to think of that as a ratio. So you can say the length to width is going to be 3 lengths for every 1 width. Or you could write the formula, the length is equal to 3 times W. So because we know that, we can cross off A and B, and that looks like C and D. Just C. And from there, we could also try to find the perimeter. So the perimeter is equal to 2L plus 2W. And we know that's equal to 86. And then from here, we can substitute 3W in for L. So 86 is equal to 6W plus 2W. And so 86 is equal to 8W. And that confirms that the answer is indeed C. Question 15. When $500 is invested in a certain simple growth account, and if no further deposits to or withdrawals from the account are made, the initial investments will double in 15.75 years. What is the percent interest rate for the simple growth account round to the nearest tenth of a percent? So in school, you may have learned this formula where it is the amount is equal to the principal or starting amount times the rate to the number of times it occurs. Usually it's time. So in this case, we start with 500 and we're ending with a double of that, so it's 1,000. And it took 15.7 years. So the rate is to the power of 15.75. So your first step is to divide both sides by 500, and you get your doubling is equal to the rate of 15.75. And this is where it gets a little weird, but whenever you want to undo an exponent, you raise it by the reciprocal power. So 1 over 15.75 on both sides. And what you're left with is that the rate is equal to 1.045. Now, the question was, what is a percent interest rate? And so this is relating to something called PINK, or percent increase problems. So for PINK, with the formula looks a lot like this. 1 plus the percent increase over 100. And we said that you go to 1.045. From here, you can subtract 1 and then times by 100, which will lead that the percent increase is 4.5% increase every single time it got compounded, or the annual percent increase. So that is why the answer is 4.5. Question 16. The expression 6 cubed root 64 x to the 9th times 2 4th root of 16 is equivalent to the expression of mxn, where m, n are all real positive values and x must be greater than 1. What is the value of m over n? So that's our question. So we're going to keep that in mind as we solve the problem. All right, so looking at this, I know the cube root of 64 is 4. So it's going to be 6 times 4. And then the cube root of x to the 9th is you want to divide the powers by 3. So it's going to be x cubed times 2. And then the 4th root of 16 is 2 as well. And then this has to equal mxn. All right, so let's multiply the coefficients together. 4 times 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 6 is 96. X cubed is equal to m times x to the power of n. All right, now don't forget about the question. So m over n. So m is 96 because those are matching, and n is equal to 3 because they're in the same spot. So we want to do 96 divided by 3, which is 32. So that is why the answer is 32. For a certain triangle, the ratio of the base length, the altitude drawn from the base, is 7 to 5. So we have base to altitude, which I'm going to abbreviate to ALT. So that's 7 to 5. If the altitude increases by a factor of 1.75, so increasing by a factor of 1.7 means to multiply. So this is going to be 5 times 1.75. By how many units must the base length increase in order for the new triangle to be similar to the original triangle? So if two triangles are similar, they must have proportional sides. So we have to multiply the base by also 1.75. Now, the question though, going back to it, is how many units must it increase by? So increase by means we have to figure out how much to add to the number. So I'm going to take 7 times 1.75 and subtract 7 from that. Now, that will equal, if you plug into your calculator, approximately 5.25. And that is answer A. So again, key thing here is we have to multiply by the same scale factor, keep it similar. Then because that increased by, you had to subtract the original from the new. And that's how we got the answer, 5.25. Question 18. If the nonlinear system consisting of the equations y equals 20 plus 6x minus 2x squared and y equals 4x plus b have no solution. So typically if they involve quadratics and they mention the number of solutions, probably going to be thinking about the discriminant test. Then which of the inequality below must be true regarding the value of b? So the first thing I'm going to do is set these equal to each other. So 20 plus 6x minus 2x squared is equal to 4x plus b. Okay, that's pretty good. So now we'll set the equation equal to 0. I'd like to have the quadratic term be positive. So I'm going to move everything to the right-hand side. 2x squared minus 2x, and then minus 20 plus b is equal to 0. Now it said it had no solutions. So because it has no solutions, That means when I do the discriminant test, the inside must be less than 0. So the discriminant test is b squared minus 4ac, and we're going to make it less than 0. And then first thing we're going to do is square the b term. So negative 2 squared minus 4 times 2 times all of c. So that's negative 20 plus b. And that's less than 0. Okay, we got to do some algebra now. And one thing I noticed is I can move the 4 over and divide both sides by 4. So if I subtract the 4 over and then divide both sides by negative 4, I have to flip the inequality sign. So we're left with 2 times negative 20 plus b is now greater than 0. Divide both sides by 2, so the negative 20 plus b is greater than 0. And so we have to decide whether it's c or d. Now, b says less than 20. So, but looking at this, when I add 20 to both sides, we want b to be greater than 20. And the key thing here is b was an integer. So because b has to be an integer, it can't be equal to 20 because it has to be greater than 20. So the next integer more than 20 is 21. That's why the answer was D. So there's a couple of things here you might have gone tripped up on. Dividing both sides by negative 4, you might have kept the inequality unflipped, and that might have led you to C. Another good reminder is that you can typically graph these on Desmos, and then you can plug in 4, plug in 20, plug in 21, and see which of the following models has no solutions. All right, that's all I have for this question, and I hope you found it helpful. Question 19, a guard in the shape of an isosceles right triangle. Again, very useful triangle to know. Isosceles right triangle is both sides are equal, and then it's s root 2 for the hypotenuse. Has a short side with a length of 8. So then this is 8, this is 8, and this is 8 root 2. Which of the following values is closest to the perimeter? So remember, we're going to add up all the sides. So 8 plus 8 plus 8 root 2. And then when we plug in our calculator, we get approximately 27.3. So the closest to the perimeter would be A. Question 20. The graph of the function f of x is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c reaches a maximum at a point at 3,24. That's also known as a vertex. And has two real solutions. So again, we're talking about the number of solutions. We'll probably want to think about the discriminant test. What could be the sum of a, b, and c? All right, so I'm going to start off with using the vertex form. So y is equal to a times x minus 3 squared plus 24. And we wanted to make it look like ax squared plus bx plus c because the question mentions it, and also using the discriminant test is based off a, b, and c. So that's a perfect square trinomial. So it's going to become ax squared minus 6ax plus 9a plus 24. Okay, that looks pretty good. And so let's use the discriminant test. We have two real solutions. So now we want b squared minus 4ac greater than 0. So negative 6a squared minus 4 times a times all of c, 9a plus 24 is greater than 0. Multiplied out, 36a squared minus 36a squared minus 96a is greater than 0. That cancels, and we're left with that a is less than 0. Okay, that's probably be helpful. Let's see what else we can do. We're looking for the sum of a, b, and c. Well, just how you just plugged in b is negative 6a, we're going to plug that in here as well. So a is a plus negative 6a for the b, and then c is the whole thing. So 9a plus 24. Okay, 9a minus 6a is 3a, and then we add another a, so it's 4a. So we're left with 4a plus 24, but a must be less than 0. So if a was 0, it could be 24, but because a is less than 0, like negative 1, it has to be less than 24. So our answer is basically any number less than 24, which is why the answer is D. Now, I'm going to do some magic. I'm going to have this appear on our Desmos graph. And now what we see is the Desmos graph on the left-hand side. We know A has to be negative because it has to hit the x-axis to have two real solutions. And something that's interesting, if we had plugged in x is 1, you would get this point right here, which is going to be 1 comma A plus B plus C, which I don't know about you, but that point has to be below the vertex as it says two real solutions. So definitely two different ways of thinking about it. Desmos could have helped you visualize it, but algebraically and using the discriminant test can help us solve it algebraically. So, all right. Hope you liked the magic. Take care now. Question 21. Line Q passes the point A, comma B and has a slope of M and N. Well, sounds like point slope form to me. So we want to do Y is equal to M over N, X minus A plus B. Line P, use a different color. It has a slope of negative S over T and passes the point C, comma D. So again, Y is equal to negative S over T, X minus C plus D. If the two lines intersect, what is the X coordinate of the point of intersection in terms of all the letters? All right, so we're looking for the ones that line intersect and we're looking for the X value. So I'm going to have replace the Y's with each other's equation. So let's look like something like this. And equals the blue one. All right, perfect. So we're looking to find the X value. So we're going to distribute the terms out and isolate the X. So we have negative SX over T. Oops. Let's go back a bit. Here we go. Plus SC over T. And then plus D is equal to mx over n minus am over n plus b. All right, so we're going to put the x's on the same side and everything else on the other side. So because that x is negative, I want to move it over here, and I'm going to take everything else and move it over to the other side. So we have sc over t plus d minus am over n minus b is equal to s over tx plus mx over n. From here, we can factor out the x term. And then we will divide all of the left side by s over t plus m over n. Now, we might need to find a common denominator. So before I do that, I'm going to check to see if this answer is already here. So looking at the first one, we want, looks like we want a negative a over m, not positive, but looking like there's not a common denominator there. Let's look at the other ones. Oh, there we go. So we actually want to have positive a over m. So that's something to watch out for. I had a minus a over m, so when I moved it over, I needed to add an am over n. And then when I moved the b over, I subtracted the b. So that looks pretty good. So then I think it is indeed the first answer. C over t, perfect, plus t minus b. Checking everything. Let's verify, check b, c, and d, and cross them off then. AOM over n. This has cm over n, which was not one of the terms we have. So we can cross off b. A n over m, ct over s, so those are kind of flipped around. And then a n over m, cs over t, yeah, again, they're flipped around. Oh, cool. So the answer was A. And so this question looks very challenging because there's so many letters involved here. But ultimately what we did is we moved the terms over and isolated them. And yes, it would have been nice if the numbers were like 1, 2, and 3, 4. But these, imagine the problem instead had been like pi squared times e to the 5.34 plus 2. You have all those decimal places everywhere. So letters can be helpful because you sometimes can't combine them to make other letters. All right. All right. Thank you all for paying attention, and we'll see you in the last one. Question number 22. The percent effectiveness is P of a vaccine m months after dosage can be modeled quite accurately by the simple exponential function Tm is equal to 100 times 1 plus r to the number 3. What is the value of r to the nearest 1,000 if after 1 year, so again, we had months, now we're switching to years, the percent effectiveness is 10m, assuming no other dosage have been administered that year? Well, first thing we're going to do is think about m months, and then we're going to have to think about, I don't know, y years, and then we're going to look at the percent effectiveness. So if we plugged in 0 for m, we would get 0 years, and that'd be 100, which makes sense. So no time has passed, the vaccine is super effective. All right, next on, I could do any number of months, but because I'm using months to years, I'm going to use 12 months, and 12 months must be 1 year. So if I plug in 12 into our formula, we get 100 times 1 plus r to the 12 over 3, or 4. Okay, and that's going to be the equivalent to 1 year. But the question said that after 1 year, it's supposed to be 10%. So that's supposed to be our p. So 10 is equal to 100, 1 plus r to the power of 4. Solve for r. We first need to divide both sides by 100. That gives us 0.1 is equal to 1 plus r to the 4th. And as we did earlier today, we're going to use the reciprocal power. So raise both sides to the 1/4. And that gives us 1 plus r is equal to 1/10 to the 1/4. Now, next thing, r is then going to be -1 plus 1/10 to the 1/4. Okay, so yes, I could find out the decimals along the way, but now I can plug this straight into my calculator. And when I do that, I get -0.438. And that is a little tricky because in the question it had 1 plus r, so you might have thought that the rate was be going upward, be positive. But something to think about is it went from 100% effectiveness down 10%. So that tells me that the base, the what we're multiplying each time, must be less than 1 and greater than 0. All right, well, that's all I have for this module. I'll see you in the next one. All right, welcome to module 2. Question 1. Which of the following expressions is equivalent to 3x to the parentheses square to the third power minus 2x root 6? All right, well, make sure you distribute the 3 to both terms. So we get 3 cubed, or 27, and then x to the power of 3, which is x to the power of 3, minus 2, and that's the square root of x to the 6. You're going to divide 6 by 2, and that'll give us 3. 27 x cubed minus 2x cubed will give us 25x cubed, which is why C was our answer. Question number 2. For question number 2, I took a little bit of time prepping and to color code the different regions. So we're looking for which had the greatest rate of change. And now that's a little tricky because you might be thinking positive rate of change is greater than negative rate of change, but the question said just to what had the greatest changing at all. So therefore we could accept, we're looking for which one is the most steep in terms of the slopes. So if you pick a C, the blue one that it looks the steepest, that is a very, very good guess. And that would be the greatest positive rate of change. But the answer D, since it's much steeper than blue, although it is negative, it's going downward, we wanted to pick B as our answer for this one. The pink one and orange ones are kind of close, but they didn't quite have as much rise as the blue one, and they definitely didn't fall as much as the brown one. All right, that's it. Question 3. On average, a wolf pack will reside and hunt over approximately 50 square mile range area. What is the approximate range in square kilometers? Okay, and you don't need to memorize how many miles are in a kilometer, how many kilometers are in a mile, since the SAT will tell you that. Now, the big trap here is that it has square miles. So I'm going to write it out as 50 miles squared. And when I convert it, I want kilometers on top because we're going to, and I'm going to put miles on the bottom because that's where we're coming from. And that's going to be 0.621 for 1 mile. But the question was miles squared. So whenever the unit is squared, you're going to want to square the conversion. If in this set had been units cubed, we'd want to cube the conversion. And that's how I got the answer of 80.5 kilometers squared. because I had to do 50 divided by 0.621 squared. So the answer was C. Question number 4. What is the possible solution to the equation shown above? So this is an absolute value equation. And typically what we want to think about absolute value equations is that the absolute value of a positive is itself, but the absolute value of a negative is the opposite of it. So because we're trying to make 35, I'm kind of thinking that the inside could be absolute value of 35, or it could be absolute value of negative 35. Okay, so then I'm going to set 2x minus 7 is equal to 35, or 2x minus 7 is equal to negative 35. All right, so I will add 7 to both sides, and then we'll get 2x is equal to 42, x is equal to 21. That's one possible solution. We could also add 7 to negative 35, which could be negative 28, and so then we'd get negative 14. So as a good reminder, you can only type in one solution when you're doing a grid-in. So if you did negative 14 and 21 together, the computer's going to think you meant negative 1,421, or if you did the reverse, you might think 21 minus 14 is 7, something like that. So whenever it says a possible solution, you just need to find one single solution. So whether you pick 21 or negative 14, either one will work. Question number 5. Given the system of linear equations shown has a singular solution, what is the positive difference between the coordinate values of that solution? Well, I plugged it into Desmos and I found it very easily. The two lines intersect at a point 44, 11. Now, the question is, what is the positive difference between the coordinate values? So we have to do absolute value of 44 minus 11, which gives us a grand total of 33. And that's why the answer is C. You definitely could have solved this by hand and it would have been perfectly acceptable, but this was a little bit faster by using Desmos. All right, let's see you for the next one. Question number 6. The point x, y is a solution to the system of inequalities defined as x minus 2y greater than negative 4 and x minus 6y is less than 8. What must be true regarding x and y? So I'm going to use Desmos to help me figure this out. And I can see the graph is right here. So what we want to look at is we want to find the places that are overlapping. And I can see that's occurring in this region. So because I want numbers right of the point intersection, I want x to be greater than negative 2. And because I want to get points above 1, because we're shading upwards, we want to know y is greater than 1. So we cross off A. This looks great, but then the y is wrong. This looks great, but then the x is wrong. And then D is perfect because it's x is greater than negative 2 and y is greater than 1. So again, a good reminder that you have access to Desmos, so make sure to use it. For the function defined as a of t is equal to 180 parentheses 1.5 to the power of t, what is the value of a negative 1? Well, I plug negative 1 in. So a of negative 1 is equal to 180 times 1.5 to the power of negative 1. And then I looked at my calculator for help, and it tells me that it's equal to 120. And that's all we had to do for number 7. Question 8. Given the function p of x is equal to 4 minus x squared of the 4 tables shown below, which corresponds to the function p of x plus 3 for the selected values of x? All right, so this is a shift to the left 3. And we could definitely use Desmos to type this function in and type p of x plus 3 in, and you'd easily find your answer that way. However, you could also do it this way. We have the x values and they're saying what p of x plus 3 is. So if I plug in 1 for x, I would get p of 4, which looking back at the beginning was going to be 4 minus 16 or negative 12. So when I plugged in 1, it says 3 here. I'm like, nope, it should be negative 12. So it's not A. This is positive 12. So it's not B. Negative 12 looks great. And D says negative 3, which is not the answer. And if you keep plugging in the other points, it will also work. But C is the right answer. All right, question number 9. Given the incomplete table above, what is the percent probability to the nearest integer percent that a randomly chosen female that participated could not swim? So we want females that could not swim on top. That's the group that we're looking for, over the females that participated. Now, currently, we don't have the females total or the females that cannot swim. So we need to figure those out. I noticed that when I add up the totals on the far right margin, 49 plus 31 is going to be 80, which 80 minus 30 is 50. So that means the bottom has to be 50. And then 50 minus 23 is 27. Perfect. So now we have our fraction. The question is what percent? So although you could write the fraction in, it would not be correct. So multiplying the top and bottom by 2 gives you out of 100. So that should be 54%. And that is indeed the correct answer. Question number 10. An inflatable boat carries a maximum of 1650. So that's probably going to be an inequality. When properly inflated, an 80-pound outboard motor is used to power the boat. Okay, the fuel tank for the motor weighs 12 pounds when full. A group of friends, all averaging 185 pounds, wish to take the boat out on the bay. They're going to take snacks and beverages in a cooler that weighs a total of 15 pounds. How many friends can safely board the properly inflated boat? Perfect. So we know it's going to be a maximum of 1650. So it had to be less than or equal to 1650. And we had an 80-pound motor, so we got to make sure to put that in there. We had a 12-pound fuel tank. Don't want to take a boat out without any fuel because you get stranded out there. We have each friend is 185 on average. And then last we got a cooler, which is 15 pounds. And yeah, you're going to eat some food and that's going to go down. But technically all that weight is going into your body, so it doesn't really go down. All right, let's see if we can solve this. So we're going to take 1650 minus the other numbers, and we're left with 185. F is less than or equal to 1543. And then we divide both sides by 185. And then F is less than or equal to 8.34. Now, can't take 9 friends or else the boat would sink. So we're going to take the most amount of friends we can at 8 friends. And, next time, the other friends can rotate out. All right, thank you. Question 11. In the diagram above, all horizontal rows and vertical columns are 1 centimeter apart. Perfect, so that's 1, and that's also 1, so a grand total of 2. What is the longest possible straight line distance between any 2 points in the diagram? Well, we've already done this problem today. This is basically the same diagonal of a square we did last time. So it's an isosceles right triangle with the side lengths of 2 and 2, and the hypotenuse must be the side root 2. So it's going to be 2, 2, 2, 2. So, great problem. Again, make sure you know your Pythagorean theorem or in your 45, 45, 90 degree triangle, but this is why it works. All right, question 12. Function given above provides an excellent model for calculating wind chill. So again, sometimes it'll say it's 10 degrees outside, but there's a very strong breeze will come by and make you feel colder. That's what wind chill is make you feel colder than the air temperature actually is. The temperature a person feels when exposed to wind, where T is the actual temperature, so we see that there, and V is the wind velocity in miles per hour, which we can see here. So 0.7 is the rate of change. And then C is the wind chill. Perfect. Now, if the actual temperature was 36 degrees Fahrenheit while 22 mile per hour wind was blowing, so 36 will go for the T, and then we're going to subtract 0.7 times the velocity of 22, and that is going to be the wind chill. We plug that all into our calculator, and we get 20.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's all there is to it. Answer is B. Question number 13. The equation above will graph as a parabola. What is the y-coordinate of the vertex of the parabola? Well, I graphed it on Desmos, and here it appears. Perfect. And so we have a nice little picture, and Desmos highlights where the vertex is. So I see I have the point -1, 36. Okay, well, we wanted the y-coordinate, so we're going to pick the y-coordinate. And the answer is D. Question 14. What is the slope of a line perpendicular to the graph of the equation 2x minus y? Well, we want to make it normal format, so I'm going to do -y equals 3 minus 2x, divide both sides by -1. Y equals -3 plus 2x. So the slope was 2. Now, whenever we want to define perpendicular slope, we want to do opposite reciprocal. So perpendicular is like an upside down T, looks like a right angle, and we want to make opposite reciprocal. So we flip the number and times it by -1. And the answer is B. All right, question 15. The system linear equation above has no single solution. Well, two lines don't intersect. They must be parallel. So we know that these two lines are parallel, which means that they have the same slope. All right, if b is less than a, which is less than 0, so they're both negative, what is the slope of a line perpendicular to either of these lines? Well, we could focus on the a and the b, but 3 and 6 are unknown. So let's find the slope of the bottom line. So we're going to move the x over and divide by 6. So we're going to get y is equal to 21 over 6 minus 3 over 6 times x. So here the slope is equal to -0.5. And the perpendicular slope is going to be opposite reciprocal, multiplied by -1 and flip it, which gives us 2 over 1. And that's why the answer is 2. Question number 16. The function p of x is equal to -x squared plus 12x minus 12 intersects the line y equals c at 2 points. Well, that's a horizontal line because there's no slope in there, both of which are 8 units distance from each other horizontally. What is the value for c? Well, we could set them equal to each other. So -x squared plus 12x minus 12 is equal to c, and set equal to 0. -x squared plus 12x minus 12 minus c, and probably multiply them by -1, so that way we have positive x squared. All right, plus 12 plus c. Now, it intersects in 2 places, so we know we have 2 roots, but also they mentioned the distance between each other. So if we go back to the quadratic formula, -b over 2a plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, the distance between root 1 and root 2 is equal to 2 times the right-hand side of the quadratic formula. So what we can do is implement that. All right, so we know a is 1, and we times this by 2, so it's just going to be over 1. And we can focus on the inside. -12 squared minus 4 times 1 times 12 plus c over, again, times this by 2 over 2 times 1, so 1. And that is equal to the distance, which is 8 units away. We could square both sides, and we're left with 144 minus 48 minus 4c is equal to 64. And then from here, we get 4c is equal to 32, and c is equal to 8. Cool. That works. Wonderful. But let's say that was a little bit complicated for you, and you instead decided to try using Desmos. So magically, the Desmos formula appears. And so what we have on the top is the parabola. And we have the green line represented by y equals c. And you can see that it's written in here in Desmos. Now, I didn't know what c should be. But what I did is I took a point, a comma p of a, and then I added 8 to the a value, and I plugged in a plus 8 in there. And then when I did that, it was easy because the points got labeled, and then I just brought up the c value to 8 because the y values are in both of those. So it looks very complicated when you do it algebraically, but when you plug in a Desmos and you can use those 8 units distance to modify the point, it can make it very easy. That's all I have for this question, and I'll see you in the next one. Question 17. Y is equal to x root 3. When this equation shown above is graphed in the xy coordinate plane, so your normal graphing Cartesian plane, what is the measure in radians, the acute angle formed between the y and x-axis? So we can graph it out. Y equals root x looks something like this. And I'm just going to go 1 unit away horizontally, and when I plug in 1 for x, the y value here would be 1 comma root 3, which is the height of the triangle. Now, I didn't do a good job drawing it to scale, but those ratios of 1 to root 3, well, as you might imagine, the hypotenuse should be 2. And this becomes a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Or, as you may remember, 60 degrees is equal to pi over 3 radians. And that's why the answer was C. All right, almost the end. Question 18. When 3 lines P, Q, and R are all graphed in the coordinate plane, line P is parallel to line Q, so those have the same slope, and perpendicular R, so opposite reciprocal. If line R is defined by this equation, so let's write that out, 3y plus 2x is equal to 12, subtract the 2x over, and divide by 3. So negative 2/3 x plus 4. So that's line R. So then P and Q must have the opposite reciprocal slopes. Their slope must be 3/2. All right, cool. And then if line Q has the same x-intercept as line R, so x-intercept means we need to find the x value when y is 0. So if we go back to R, we can plug in 0 for y and negative 2/3 times x plus 4. And we get x is equal to 6. Okay, cool. Well, now that we know that, we can make our P and Q models. So P would be y equals 3/2 x minus 6 plus 0. And since we're looking for the y-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for x. And 3/2 times negative 6 is going to equal negative 9. And the answer is D. Alternatively, you could plug this into Desmos, and you can see they both intersect at 6,0, and the blue line travels down and hits at 0,9. So another powerful way of figuring it out. But either way, I'll see you at the next one. Question 19. A certain circle is tangent to both the horizontal and vertical axes. So if we imagine some axes here, it could be a circle like that, where it's tangential to the axes. So that means that the center, h, k, must be the same equidistance away from the center. So like 2, 2 or 3, 3. It can be presented by the algebraic equation of x plus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Well, that's interesting because normally the formula is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And that normally has a center of h, k. But by doing x plus h, they're telling us the center has to be negative h, positive k. All right, if h is less than k, what must be true regarding the graph? Okay, well, the center has to be hk in quadrant 1. Well, no, it seems like the center has to be negative h, k. But the second half is true, right? H and k would be equidistant. B, the center is negative h, k in quadrant 2, which makes sense because it's on the left side and h has to be less than k. And h is k, so that looks pretty good. The center is negative h, negative k in quadrant 3. And I mean, yes, that's true. And negative absolute value is always less than any absolute value, unless h and k are 0. But that'd be on the origin. But the k cannot be less than r. It has to be equal to r. So this part is wrong. And then the center of h, k in quadrant 4. And again, no, h and k the absolute value have to be equal because it's tangential. So it's not this one. So the only one that works, even though it's a very weird problem, the only one that's even possible is B, because the h and k absolute value have to equal the radius, and we want it to be in the right quadrant, taking the information from the center given and the fact that h must be less than k. Question number 20. The function a of m calculates the values in dollars of an investment account after m months from the initial investment. If a is a growth account increasing by p% from every preceding year, what is the value for p? Well, again, it has months here. So what I'm going to do is make my modeling. So we have M and A here. It also says every preceding year. So actually, maybe I want to include the years here too. So let's erase that. There you go. Make it years there. Perfect. Y years, and then the value of A. So when M is 0, so it's 0, we get 0 years, and it's 12,565 starting amount. Again, just a reminder that this is always your original amount here. All right, so I plug in M as 12 because we're talking about years. Now we can plug 12 in for the exponent, and we're left with 12565 times 1.074 to the power of 1. Oh, so this basically makes it per year, which is kind of convenient. So we then go back to our percent increase formula. So 1 plus percent increase over 100 is equal to our growth factor of 1.074. And then the percent increase over 100 is equal to 0.074 times those sides by 100. And we're left with the percent is equal to 7.4%. And yeah, and I want to write down all of that because it didn't say round to the integer, round to the hundredths place. So 7.4 is the correct answer. Question 21. A set of 10 non-negative integers has an arithmetic mean of m and a statistical range of r. Well, mean is the sum of all those numbers. So if we had 10 letters, like I think it's A through K or A through L, but basically 10 of them, we divide by 10, that's equal to our mean. But the range has to be the max minus the min. So I don't know if it's in order or not, but max minus min has to equal the range always. When the least and greatest values are removed, the remaining values also has the same arithmetic mean. Interesting. Well, that means that the mean of the numbers removed has to equal the mean of the original numbers. So because of that information, we know the max plus the min, the smallest plus the largest divided by 2, has to equal the same mean as we had earlier. What is the value of the least integer removed from the original set? So we're looking for the min. Okay, well, so max plus min is equal to 2m, and max minus min is equal to r. So if I subtract them from each other, I get rid of the maxes, and I'm left with 2 min is equal to 2m minus r. Well, we want to find out what the value of the minimum number is, so divide both sides by 2. And the min is equal to m minus r over 2, which looks like answer A. So that's just one way of doing it. Alternatively, you could have made up random numbers and tried doing it on Desmos using the term min. And then this might take you 4 or 5 minutes to do that, playing with all the different numbers and making sure that when you remove the smallest and the largest number, it still has the same mean. So, okay, well, thank you so much. And we're going to have one more to go. All right. Question number 22. Congrats. You made it to the end. So this is the last one, and then you can go take a break. Go do something fun. Get some Roblox on, or watch a TV show, or watch YouTube. Something. Give yourself a break. All right. Question 22. 420 is 1,100% greater than n. So this is another percent increase problem. And we're using poof as well because we have the original n and then the final 420. Haha, 420. All right, let's go. So percent increase. So I'm going to do 1 plus 1,100 over 100 times the starting number n is equal to the final number 420. All right, 1,100 over 100 is 11. So this is really 12n is equal to 420. Divide both sides by 12. And what do we get? We get grand total of 35. And that is super fast. Now, definitely traps along the way is if you did not do 1,100% plus the 1, it would not have worked out for you. And then you've gotten really close to the answer, but not quite there. But yeah, thank you again so much for doing this review. I hope you learned a lot from this review, and we'll see you at the next one. All right, take care now. Bye-bye.